Good evening. Sorry to keep you waiting there. I had to make some coffee first. I'm streaming late tonight because, well, my day got away from me a little bit, so it's a late one. I don't usually like to stream at night this late because it just cuts into the evening and throws off the rhythm of the day, but I'm trying to be committed and stick to my hour a day commitment. Let me do a quick audio visual test real quick. Just make sure things are working okay. Testing 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. Yep, that'll do it. There's a delay. There's quite a bit of a delay going through Restream compared to just doing it straight to YouTube or straight to Twitch. It's just kind of an interesting side note. Oh, that music's too loud for me. Oops. Go back to my screen share. There we go. Alright, now we got that all sorted out. Turn the music up for you guys a little bit. If the music's too loud, you guys let me know. Although I don't think there's anyone here that can let me know, but if there was somebody here to let me know, that'd be awesome. Okay, so what are we gonna do tonight? It's kind of a smorgasbord. We're gonna do kind of a little bit of everything. I need some content for some videos. I want to take care of some NeoVim configuration stuff. I want to work on the AltGen console app a little bit. I also thought it might be fun to go over kind of my stream setup, my recording setup. Somebody asked me a question about that today on a YouTube short. Somebody asked me a question about what I use to stream and stuff, so I thought maybe it'd be fun to go over that too. So yeah, it's gonna be a little bit of everything. The first thing I want to talk about is some NeoVim configuration. So I was setting up a new project today, and in this project, let me make this a little bigger. In this project, I decided to use Vue for my client. However, I ran into a slight little bit of a hiccup with my NeoVim config trying to get language server features working correctly with Vue. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm actually in this project. Let's go into the client and let's open up one of my Vue files. Let's just go into the app.vue. So what the issue I was having is essentially the LSP wasn't recognizing hello world. So let's go GD. So you can see there's obviously no ability to resolve the definitions for hello world, that component. And so I was like, oh shoot, well this stinks. I want to use Vue. I'm gonna write apps with Vue. So if I'm gonna use NeoVim, I need to figure this out. So turns out there's a couple steps I need to take, and I thought I'd show you just in case you find yourself in this situation too. Let's see. Quit all. Quit. Whoops. You can tell I'm still a NeoVim noob here. Okay, so what we need to do to get our configuration working is the first thing we need to do is we need to edit our mvim config. And so the first thing we need to do is we actually need to install another language server. So in this case, I have the TS, the TypeScript language server, already set up. So if we come down here in my LSP config, you can see I have, or I just passed it. I can see I'm already setting up the TypeScript language server, which is good. But I need to actually add a plugin with this language server called Volar, which is basically it's the Vue language server. So I need to install that language server first. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use Mason. So these instructions might not be super helpful if you don't have quite the same configuration, but I'm using Mason to do some of my package management. And so I'm going to go ahead and open Mason, and I'm going to switch over to tab number 2, and I'm going to go down here to the available LSPs, I mean, the available LSPs. I'm going to go all the way down to the V's. And I should find the Vue language server is what it's called in Mason, but it's actually Volar. So Volar is the language server, and I believe this is something that Vue builds and maintains, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm honestly not 100% certain who builds it and who maintains it, but this is the language server you need in order to make the TypeScript LSP play nicely with Vue files. So let's go back here, and in Mason we are going to install it by obviously highlighting it and then typing I. And so now if we jump back up to the top, we should see Vue language servers installing here. And then once it's installed, it should be good. Now, that doesn't fix all our problems, because while we have the language server, our TypeScript language server doesn't know anything about it, nor how to incorporate it. So that's where we have to adjust our TSLS configuration a little bit to take into account that we're going to use that new language server we just installed. So the first thing we need to do is we need to get a path to the Vue language server, and the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to use the Mason registry. So we'll say local Mason registry, and this is just a nice way to be able to resolve the packages that Mason has installed without having to specify a literal path to it. So then we'll say, now that we have the registry, we can say language. We can make another local variable. We'll call it Vue language server. Could also call it maybe language server path if you wanted to be more literal. And then we're going to call Mason registry.get package, and we're going to pass in the name of our package, which in this case is not Volar, it's Vue language server. That's how it's referred to in Mason. And then we're going to call one more method off the end of this guy that's going to be get install path, right? So this is actually the literal place where that package is installed. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get the actual language server we're interested in. So we're going to go into the node modules folder, and we're going to go into the Vue folder, and we're specifically going to resolve the language server in that directory. And then with that, we have what we need to now configure our TypeScript language server. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to say init options. Copilot's getting a little eager here, so let's actually disable Copilot, because Copilot is not helping us in this case. We're going to say init, and then we're going to say plugins. And so this is where we're sort of extending the TS language server with our Vue language server. So now we're going to say name of our plugin is going to be @Vue TypeScript plugin. And then we're going to say location equals, hey Boston Sports Cards, good to see you, man. My day is going well. How's your day going? So now we're going to say, and then we're going to say location is view language server, right? Because that's the path we found. Then we're going to say languages equal view, just like that. And then the last thing is we just want to specify some file types to make sure that this TS language server works for all the different file types. So we'll say TypeScript. We will say JavaScript. And then we want both the React versions of those. So this will make it work in the JSX files. TypeScript, React, and then the one we need to add is Vue. So this will make it kick in and attach and respond to the opening of Vue files. So with all that set up, we should have what we need now to go ahead and write quit all. And now what we should be able to do is we should be able to open up this same project that we just had open before. And we should be able to go to source, go to client, and we should be able to go back to that app.vue file. And now my hope is that if we look at the LSP info, we should see, after a moment, we should see 4 clients attached. We have Copilot, we have NullOS, we have ESLint, and then obviously we have the TLS. So now I'm hoping that this TLS can resolve that import, or at least get the definition, right? So now let's go back to hello world, and we'll type space GD, and it takes us now to that actual hello world component. So now that means that the Vue, the Volar plugin or language server is now working with the TypeScript language server to actually give us all those nice LSP features within our Vue files, which now makes it possible for us to have a nice development experience when working on Vue projects. So if you come up against this yourself, I hope this is helpful. I hope it helps you resolve it. I'll make sure and put a link in the description to my configuration so you can see that for reference. And actually, while we're here, let's go ahead and quit all out of this. Let's actually go to my config. We'll say git add, git commit, feature, make Vue play noise. And I'll make sure and put that, like I said, as a link in the description. Oh, I guess I need to pull in some changes. And I guess I need to actually resolve some of these. In any event, that's not interesting to you. I'll take care of that. But yeah, I hope this is helpful. I hope that you are able to use this to hopefully get your NeoVim setup working nicely to allow you to work with Vue files. So. Okay. Sorry guys, I was trying to make a short little video. I wasn't trying to ignore you. Let's see. Boston Sports Cards. Hope your day's going good today. Mine's going great. How about you, man? How's your day going? Tax Better Man, what's up, dude? Nothing much, man. Just getting a little streaming in here at the end of the day. Hold on, I can't see all of that message. Turn that off. Let's see. Say, I stopped lifting for a week. Not only did I get bigger, but I can lift more. What up with that? I don't know if I can explain the specifics of it, but I mean, recovery, right? Recovery is when the adaptation takes place, right? So like, that's kind of the one thing that people sometimes get twisted is it's not the working out, right, that actually leads to an adaptation. The working out or the training is the catalyst. But if you don't take the time to step away and recover, right, then you don't actually get the adaptation. There's actually a really simple chart that's in a lot of exercise phys books. Let me see if I can find it. Super adaptation exercise science chart. Yeah, super compensation. Right? This is a pretty good one. See if we can find it here. Oh, that's blurry as shit, man. Let's try to find a better image there. This is kind of a nice one. Super adaptation, super compensation theory, I guess, is another name for it, right? But like you can imagine, right, your experience, right, is you were giving a lot of training stimulus. It was so weird because I was going nonstop, but not making gain until I stopped. Yeah, exactly. So like that, you probably experienced exactly what this graph. My wife even asked if I was on steroids. Well, nice. Yeah. So like, here's exactly kind of probably what was going on for you, right? Is like your training stimulus was so high that your recovery was probably too little to ever get you back even to baseline, or maybe you were getting back to baseline. Um, but you weren't actually getting the super compensation, right? Meaning you weren't actually seeing the increase in strength, the increase in muscle mass. So it was like your training, your stimulus to recovery was out of whack, right? So that's a good thing to put in the back in your back pocket, right? Like everybody recovers at a little bit different rates. Um, so now you kind of know, hey, if I push the volume quite a bit, or if I push my stimulus pretty high, I need some time to recover. There's actually uh, a very interesting school of thought that kind of is related to this. Not exactly related, but if you have ever heard of a fella named Mike Mincer, he was a famous bodybuilder back in the, I don't know, 70s, 80s. You know, he was there when Arnold was during Arnold's days. Um, and there's another guy. What's his name? High intensity training. So this was a style of training that Mike Mincer popularized. Arthur Jones kind of popularized it. One of the founders of Nautilus. Um, there's a sports scientist though that wrote a book that I read, and now I'm blanking on it. But like they had this idea where they would actually train hard for like once or even maybe twice a week, and they would go to failure, right? They would train to failure, but not like failure where like, that was a hard rep. They were training very intensely, right? It's kind of hard to put into words the level of intensity they applied. But their whole thing, the whole idea behind that was they thought that with a high enough, if you could apply a high enough stimulus in a given training session, you didn't need to train 3, 4, 5, 6 days a week. You just apply this really, really intense training stimulus and then give your body lots of time to recover, and lots of all the nutrients you need. And they would see results that were equivalent to the guys who were training 3, 4, 5 days a week, right? So not that, I mean, again, though, that was one person's opinion. Or not one person's, but it was a school of thought, right? It was a type of training, an approach to training. And I bring it up more just because it's related, right, to this idea of stimulus to the amount of recovery, right? So the higher the training stimulus, right, the more recovery you're going to need to come back to baseline or even come back above baseline. And you kind of experience that firsthand. Okay, well, here's the weird thing. I've stopped for like 3 days before, lost weight, couldn't lift as much as I did before. So maybe the training stimulus was different back then. I don't know. Do you have any training logs or journals from that time? Maybe you can look back and see maybe there was something you did different. Human anatomy and physiology is weird, you know? It's a science, but when you start getting into the training aspect of it, it's a little bit of an art, you know? I already did my work. That's why I'm streaming side projects and computer stuff tonight. I already worked out this morning. I streamed while I worked out. It was this morning. I missed you guys then. Let's see. So we did the NeoVim thing. So I had somebody ask me about my stream setup. So I thought maybe that would be interesting to take a look at, is the stream setup. Someone asked me about it, and I was like, well, here's kind of a high level, but Tax Betterman. Yeah, maybe. I've been going super heavy for 5 or 6 reps. I'm sorry, I didn't. No, Tax Betterman. You're not ruining any of that. No, I mean we can talk about anything, right? It's my stream. We can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Yeah, I mean that could be the difference, right? Different training stimulus. Your body responds differently to heavy 5 to 6 reps, maybe higher sets than higher sets, lower reps. Maybe that takes a bigger toll on you or has a greater training stimulus than what you were doing before. It'd be interesting to run it again, run the same cycle again, right? So just kind of maybe not the same length of time, right? To take so many days off before you take so many days off, but maybe try running it back for another 3 to 4 weeks and then take, what was it? How many days did you say you took off? You stopped lifting for a week. Yeah, try that again. Just run it back and see how that goes. 3 weeks on, then take a week off. I mean, if you've ever looked at Renaissance periodization, I don't know if you've ever Renaissance periodization. I think these guys are where it's at when it comes to programs these days. They also have an app. But if you've ever done one of their programs, they actually have a very specific way they periodize. What's that word? Periodization. So they have a very specific way they approach the yeah, it would be interesting, Tax Betterman, to run it back again and just see if you have the same results. But what I was going to say is, like, you do something like that where you, let me see if I can illustrate this probably better. So, let me draw on the screen here. So, they have a very specific way they tier or periodize, I can't say the word, the way they structure their programs, where most people are really thrown off by it. But what they'll do is they'll basically have, like, your first week of volume looks like this. Right? Then your next week of volume looks like this. Then your third week of volume looks like that. And then your fourth week of volume is like this. Like they just slash it in half. And the whole idea here is this is your deload, right? That's another term people use. But this is your deload week. And the idea is to still lift, but you're really not getting much of a training stimulus. It's like half the volume of your first week. And the whole idea here is this week is supposed to help allow for that super compensation to occur. And then it cycles back through, right? So then you go back, then it basically, you go a little higher, right? So then you go here the first week, then you go a little higher here the first week, and then you top out again on that third week. And then, so, I mean, each one of their programs are a little bit different, but they have that general like kind of linear periodization. So it'd be interesting for you to run a program like that, right? Instead of, it sounds like you were kind of training endlessly for a real long time with a pretty high stimulus and you cut it to 0, right? So for you, your training probably looked more like, this, right? Like, let's say that was going on for many weeks, and then now you had 1 week where it was just flat, right? It would be interesting for you to run that in a much more structured way, right? So maybe where you could do something like, let's pretend these are weeks, right? So you take three weeks of that same volume or the same intensity that you had been doing, and then the fourth week you go like 25% or something like that. Yeah, so that would be like, That would be that's a perfect way to approach it. I've actually had coaches, heard coaches and trainers who talk about this idea of that life life a lot of times will offer you opportunities for deloads, right? So you can sort of like, for example, you're high then off, like so this would be an interesting way to build that in with your trip, right? So maybe leading up to that week of Disney, you really push the volume, really push the intensity, and then take the Disney week off, right? Maybe do some light, walk. Obviously you're going to be walking, stuff like that, but yeah, you're welcome, man. There's lots of approaches, right? And there's lots of ways to skin this cat. But it's very interesting when people self-report, how things work for them or how things don't work for them. Yeah, and too, if you're ever looking for good content around training, I couldn't recommend Renaissance enough. They're just super smart people. They're like almost all the people that work on this in this company are like PhD level, educated sports scientists or exercise physiologists or biomechanics, but then they're also all very serious athletes, right? Like bodybuilders, power lifters, or Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So they kind of bring those two worlds together, which is nice. So yeah, I couldn't recommend them enough. Their programs are a little expensive, right? So like if you go down that road, like their programs are expensive, a couple $100 or whatever, but in my opinion, they've always been worth it. All right, what are we going to work on next? How much time we've been on? We've been on for 31 minutes. I was going to talk about my stream setup. I don't know how many people are actually interested in this, but it might be nice to have a video of it at the time. So, okay, what do we want to cover? Let's see. So let's go over hardware. We can go over camera, microphone, computer. That's about it. That's about all I have. Camera, microphone, computer, and then software, which is really simple too. It's just Restream.io. Well, before that, it was Streamlabs desktop. And then I added Restream plus, or I guess OBS plus Restream. Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's really it. There's really not much to it at the moment. Tax Better Man. Do I have an Instagram? I do. I used to be far more active on it than I am today. Let's see. Instagram.com. I think it's Steven.freeborn. Let me get logged in here. I'm pretty sure it's Steven.freeborn. Let's see. This is shoot, I don't even know my login, do I? Maybe I can. Okay, there we go. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, this is my Instagram. It's Steven.freeborn. But I haven't done a ton with it since, let's see, my last post was like 2 years ago, I think. January 6th of 2022. Wow, yeah, so almost 3 years ago at this point. I basically kind of stopped posting on this when I've kind of stopped doing a lot of fitness related stuff. And I just haven't used Instagram much. I'm actually, the social that I'm most active on, other than LinkedIn, is Blue Sky. That's what I've been the most active on recently. So if you have a Blue Sky, follow me there. I mean, also you can follow me on Instagram. I just don't, again, I haven't put much effort into it. Or I don't go there much anymore these days. Uh, what do you use for your editor software, and how easy is it for someone who isn't very computer savvy? Uh, so for editing, I use DaVinci Resolve. I don't know if I don't know if I should be starting it up with my stream going at the same time. It might tax my system here a little bit. But I can show it to you. It's free. Actually, I could probably, without even starting it, I could probably just show it to you online. Yeah, so I use DaVinci. This is DaVinci Resolve. If you've heard of like Adobe Premiere, they kind of probably have the biggest market share. Adobe Premiere Pro, that's what a lot of people use. I used it for a real long time, like all my vlogs on my YouTube channel. The vast majority of those vlogs were edited with Adobe Premiere. Yeah, like all these videos were mostly edited with Adobe Premiere. Nothing against Adobe Premiere. Adobe Premiere is just it's a subscription service, and DaVinci Resolve's free. Tax Betterman. I don't know what Blue Sky is. Blue Sky is basically like a knockoff Twitter. Or it's like I shouldn't say knockoff because that's not very nice. It's like a new version of Twitter. It's built on a little bit different technology and a little bit different protocol. But yeah, it's basically like Twitter. I'm on X. I actually my X account. Am I logged in on here? Although I probably have to. Oh, I was like, oh, is X.com down? So I'm on X. You can find me on X, just at Steven Freeborn. I actually had to make a brand new X account because my old one got suspended and I could never get it back. But if you're on Twitter, or what formerly was known as Twitter, you can find me there. But Blue Sky is basically just another Twitter thing. Hey Boston Sports Cards, good to see you again. Sorry if I missed you earlier. I didn't mean to snub you like that. What was I talking about? Oh, I was talking about DaVinci Resolve. So the reason why I use DaVinci Resolve is because it's free. But in terms of like how computer savvy you need to be, you don't need to be computer savvy at all. The nice thing with DaVinci Resolve, it's free, so there's a pretty big community around it. So anything you want to learn, you can just Google like, how do I mask out a green screen in DaVinci Resolve, and there'll be a YouTube video, there'll be a blog post. There's just so much content out there that you can learn it really easily. Just follow a tutorial, and then once you, obviously, like with anything, once you do things 3 or 4 times, you know it, right? You don't have to always refer back to the video. But yeah, that's probably what I use DaVinci Resolve. If I'm on mobile, like on my iPhone, I use a editor called InShot. Yeah, this guy. This is what I use on my phone. So if you ever want to do some video editing or something, and you just want to use your phone, this is a pretty good tool. Boston Sports Cards, how are you doing tonight? Just tooling around YouTube, having a good time. It's actually nice to see you guys here, because like the last few times I've streamed from my computer, I've had really no... Oh, you're welcome, Tax Better Man. You're welcome for sure, man. And if you have it, I mean, obviously, like, if you start using DaVinci Resolve, or you get yourself, you get twisted up or something, reach out. You know, be happy to help you out, give you some tips. What was I getting ready to say? I was getting ready to say that it's been interesting when I've streamed from my mobile. Okay, see you, Tax Better Man. You have a good night. Thanks for stopping in. Appreciate it. Good luck with your training. Have fun at Disney. It's been kind of interesting though. Streaming from my computer, I get far less people engaging in my chat than I do when I stream mobile, which is kind of interesting. It's also, though, I mean, I also get far less trollish behavior. So less viewers, less trolls. So I guess like the trade-off, you know. Yeah, okay, so we were gonna do kind of let's try to make a video around my setup here. So how should we do that? Let's put this down. We don't need this either. Go to my settings. Yeah, let's go to settings, and we'll pull up about my PC. I don't think there's anything sensitive on here that I can't share. And then let's pull up the task manager, because I think that will show my graphics card. And then I'll pull up my camera. This, yeah, Amazon.com. So I'll have this. We'll have this to go look at. Some sites are being slow to load tonight for me. Okay, then we'll have this, 6500. None of my stuff's fancy at all. I bought it forever ago at this point now. I bought it like when I was super deep into the content creation, and then I kind of stopped for the last 2 or 3 years, and I've just never... Yeah, I bought this in 2019. And then my camera, let's see, my computer. I can actually probably show my actual computer. G14 Zephyrus 20. I think this was 2020 when I bought this, or maybe 2021. It was a Best Buy purchase. Yeah, I don't think that was it. I think it was 2021. I mean, I doubt, I probably can't find that exact model. Well, I bet I can copy it here. Let's see. GA41. I've literally worked on 0 side projects, so my stream title is a little bit of a lie. G4. Yeah, I mean, this is close enough to what it is. Camera, computer, oh, and microphone. I just have a blue. I have a couple different microphones, but this is the one I keep coming back to. It's it's the oldest one I have, and it's the one I always come back to. Yeah, just that one. Okay, cool. So we make a quick video about that. Okay. I had a comment on one of my shorts about what I use or what my setup is for recording and streaming. So I thought real quick it might be interesting to just take a quick peek at the things I use from a hardware perspective and the things I use from a software perspective. There's nothing cutting edge here. There's nothing flashy, but this is what I use in case you ever are wondering at this point in time, which is February 2025 is when I'm making this video. So the first thing, let's start with hardware. As far as hardware goes, my computer is just a laptop. I just stream off a laptop. It's a Zephyrus G14. It's, I think, one of these models, but I bought it at Best Buy. It's got 16 gigabytes of RAM in it. It's got a RTX 3060, the laptop version, obviously not the desktop version. It has a AMD Ryzen 9 5900HS with it, with an integrated Radeon graphics. And that is really it from a computer perspective. Nothing fancy, no crazy dual computer stream setup. I think this works okay for me. It probably wouldn't work okay if I was trying to stream from it and do something like play games at the same time. I probably would also stress it if I was trying to stream from it and do some serious, very complicated development workload with it. As you can see, I'm kind of pushing the RAM at the moment, right? It's kind of topping out the RAM. So obviously results are going to vary, right? But it works for me. When it comes to my camera, I use a Sony a6500. This is the nicest camera I own. It's on a tripod. I use a piece of software called Sony Imaging Edge, which basically just allows me to use my mirrorless camera as a webcam. It doesn't support the best resolution from the camera, but it's easy to use and works with all the different software that I use. So that's the camera. The microphone I use, I know it probably doesn't sound the best, but it works for me. It does the job. It's this blue Snowball Ice white microphone. Looking back now, when I bought this many years ago at Best Buy. I wish I had bought the black version. That's my one regret with it. But I have several different microphones, and for whatever reason, I keep coming back to this one time and time again. I don't know why. I just do. So that's my camera, my microphone, my computer, software-wise. So in terms of software, when I started streaming and was recording when I started streaming and was recording some, I started using Streamlabs Desktop, which is really nice. It's a really great piece of software. However, if you want to do multi-streaming with it, like you want to be able to stream to Twitch and YouTube at the same time, you got to sign up for a subscription. So for that reason, I set Streamlabs aside, and recently, like literally less than a week ago, I set up a Restream. So I don't know if you're familiar with that. I set up an account with Restream.io. And the whole reason for that was because they support streaming to two places, and they support it at 1080p HD if you're streaming from something like OBS, and it's free. You don't have to pay extra to stream to a secondary place. They also support streaming to a bunch of destinations, but then again, you're back to needing a subscription, and I don't have enough viewers or followers, or I don't make any kind of income off this to make it worthwhile to pay for a subscription like that. So I use Restream.io, and then the software I use is just good old OBS. Let me turn off my preview here so we don't get that weird feedback. But I just use Streamlabs. I just use OBS, which Streamlabs OBS is just, they've taken the OBS software and put their own skin on it and added a bunch of functionality on top of it. But OBS is just an open source software that you can use to stream and record video. You can do really complex, crazy things, but I pretty much just use it to make a handful of scenes. I have an intro, I have my screen share scene like this, my full camera view, and then I've got some basic audio from my microphone and my desktop. And then these panels you see here are the Restream integration. So Restream lets you kind of control what you're streaming to, and it also gives you kind of a unified view of your chat. And so far, so good. I don't have any complaints. Like I said, I've only been using it for like 4 or 5 days. So take that for what you will. But that's at a high level my setup. Obviously, if you guys have questions or want to know more about any of those things, I'll be happy to share them. But just quick recap, camera is a A6500 mirrorless from Sony. My microphone is a blue Snowball microphone. The computer is a G14 Zephyrus, circa 2021. I use OBS plus Restream.io to stream and record. And that's that. So if you have questions, leave a comment. I'll try to drop a link to all that stuff in the description. And obviously, we can expound on any of it if you have any interest. Nice. So that's two. I've got 2 videos now in the can I can chop up from this stream. And we're at 49 minutes. Okay. I usually like to kind of keep streams to like an hour. Otherwise, I feel like they kind of can run on forever. And it is hard to stop. So I think what we're going to do in the next 10 minutes is we are going to... What are we going to do? I honestly don't know what we're going to do. I think we should work on that AltGen console app a little bit. 10 minutes worth of work. We might be able to get some stuff done, you know? But that's what I think we should do. Let's put that down there. Let's re-enable the preview so I can see myself. Make sure my camera's not all screwed up. I'm also gonna skip to the next song. Close that. We can close this guy. Pull this back up. Oh, let's actually resolve this merge conflict that I have going on here. Lazy git. I have a merge conflict in here. Let's see. Excuse me. Does lazy git have a... Oh, interesting. Lazy git just uses my default editor, I guess, maybe? Yeah, I don't think this... Let's see. This is the incoming change. Yeah, let's take the incoming. It's fine. Yes, continue. And then let's push that up. Okay. And then let's get out of here. Okay, everything's up to date. Let's go home. Let's edit the config really quick. And let's actually do a little bit of housekeeping. Open lazy. Let's update. Nice. Okay, let's sync. Sync. Alright, everything's up to date. Cool. Let's go to Mason. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like everything's up to date there. Go to the config, get status, get add, get commit, update packages. It's important to keep your stuff up to date, you know? It's a chore, but you gotta do it. Alright, so let's work a little bit on AltGen. I know I said I was gonna do side projects, and I'm just getting to it 15 minutes in. I don't even remember where we left this. So, where did we leave this? We were working on the console, and I think we left this like right as we were getting ready to make a call. Yeah. So, so what we basically our situation here is basically we need to have an actual key. And so that key needs to be passed in at runtime, or we need to get it from configuration. So we probably are going to end up having another command for this app that's like config, where I can pass it the provider I want to use, and I can also pass it that provider's key. And that way I don't have to pass those every single time I don't have to pass those every single time I want to generate alt text. I can just have those persisted on disk somewhere. Yeah. But and then the other problem I have is I need to be able to get the right URL. So I think what we're going to end up having to do is we're going to have to generate some code at build time. So if I build the code... Here, let me see if I can explain this better. So right now, this request isn't going to work because obviously I'm sending it to this improper path, this improper URL. What I need to do here is I need to send this to a valid place. So when I'm developing this locally, I want this to be for the API that I have in my project or in my solution, which I forget what that runs on. What does that run on? Let's see, where's properties 7297. So when I'm in the development, when I'm developing, I want this to always be 7297, or basically I want it to be whatever that API is going to launch on. But when I publish this app, I actually want this to be where it's actually hosted, which is that https api.altgen.stephenfreeborn.com. So that's the one I want to hit when I'm in prod. So what I need to have is I need to basically have like a constants that's generated at build time, and then by default when the app builds, that constant will be this URL. This constant will be this URL, and then when I publish it, I can overwrite that with a command. I can pass something on the command line. I can pass a property on the command line and overwrite it. Is what I think what I want to do. But just to see if this works, let's leave that hard coded for now. And let's start up our API. So we'll start up our API in one of these tabs. I realized I forgot to disable PS readline, which I know at some point is going to bite me in the butt with streaming. Because at some point I'm going to put a secret or something in the command line, and then it's going to show up in my history at some point. So I need to do a better job of remembering to turn that off. Okay, so let's start up our API. .NET run -- project source. Okay, Hopefully that builds. It's taking a minute, which has me worried now. Yeah, okay. So that built fine, which is good. Now what we'll do is we'll go into that same, and now we'll say .NET run -- project source altgen console, and we'll pass it a path. Let's go tilde / OneDrive desktop, and I think I have an image on there called camera. Yeah, I have something like camera. I think I have one that's just camera PNG. Yeah. So this should. Oh no, I also need to pass. So this is what I'm gonna eventually change. So right now, I'm having to pass the provider, the key, and the path on the command line. But I think in a future state, I want the key and the provider to be optional. And so there'll be optional command arguments, and then if they aren't supplied on the command line, then I'll try to get them from some configuration file. And if I can't get them on the command line, and if I can't get them from the configuration file, then I'll throw an error. So we'll have to do a little bit of customization of our logic here. But this should work for now. So let's go ahead and put Gemini as our provider, and then we'll just do key as our key. And so this should make a request to our API. We should see a request come in over here. Oh, yeah, it tried to make a request and it got a 404. Because we don't have a route there. I also don't want all this. I don't want all this info. So we need to clear the logging providers. So we need configure logging, and then we'll say L goes to, whoops. We'll add some logging to this. Very, very minimal logging though. This is such a small app, it doesn't need much. L.clear, we want to clear the providers. And it's going to want to make that anonymous, and then we need a using Microsoft extensions logging. There you go. And then we need to come down here, and we don't just need the base URL, we also need our endpoint. So this should be generate. Make that. Okay, that's still running, so we'll run this again. Same command. This time it should actually hit. How come we're not seeing this be called? I think this should. Because I think if I try, let's see. Let's pull up Postman real quick. This is why I need tests. This is why it's always good to write tests. This is the pain you experience when you haven't written tests and you have to do everything manually. So let's see. If I change this to... So all I'm doing is I'm just going to hit... I'm going to hit this API from Postman. Yeah, so then we should see a handler there. Yeah, and I got my alt text back. Because I'm actually sending a valid API key over there. But I'm surprised it's not hitting this and returning. So it is hitting it though, because this exception, this text is coming from this exception. So it is hitting my Well, I'd like to debug this, but I don't think I have this set up to read in input. But I know how to do that. I just need to set it up. So let's make we are gonna make ourselves. What we're gonna do is we're actually gonna use VS Code because I don't know how to write one of these from scratch. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say code like that, and we're gonna generate. Oh, I haven't shown VS Code much love lately. Look at all these extensions that need. Is there a way to update them all? Yeah, there we go. Update them all. I'm basically going to use VS Code to generate a launch.settings file for debugging. That will make getting input much simpler. I think we're still updating some. I have so many extensions installed on my VS Code. There's probably some I need to actually get rid of. There's a lot that I haven't, like C++. I don't know why I have that installed. I think a lot of them I installed thinking, yeah, I would explore some of these things at some point, and I just never got around to it. All right, which one's deprecated? All right, we got rid of you. There we go. Update. Restart to update. Probably have way too many programs going on right now. Poor little computer. My 16 gigabytes of RAM is screaming for help. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to generate. Oh, where'd it go? Come back. I'll go to the command palette. So if I type .NET. What are you talking about? You couldn't find. Let's see. There we go. So I'm going to generate one. I'm actually going to generate one for API, and then I also want to generate one. Well. Let's copy these. Well, I don't know why VS Code can't. I want to just amend to these. Let's see. Yep. That's fine. This should be API. Run, alt gen .api. And this really should be build API. And then in my task, I'm going to call this build API, publish API. Oh no, that's publish everything. Oh no, this is everything actually. That's just going to build the whole solution. That's going to publish the whole solution. That's fine. That's going to watch the whole solution. Which I don't know what that will actually do, since my solution has an API and a console project in it. But in any event, what I want to do is I want to create a new file. Not there. Yeah. And this is just going to be a placeholder for the moment, because I need to merge these together. Okay. And then I'm going to regenerate these for the console. So Control B, and then we'll say yes, and we'll do console. Oh, it didn't override it. Man, VS Code made it seem like they were going to delete everything. So now I have a way to debug my API. I can get rid of this. I don't need it. My tasks can all stay the same because that's just pointing at my solution. This is going to say, we're going to call this altgen. Yep, altgen.console. Then we need to take some inputs. So this is where we're going to come up above the configuration, and we are going to say inputs, and we're going to call this ID. Oops, ID. We're going to call this arguments. We'll call this description. We'll say arguments to pass to the application. Then we'll say type is going to be a prompt string, and the default is just an empty prompt. Then we can come down here to our console app, and we can say args is going to be that. Thank you, Copilot. You're wonderful. Alright, so with those in place now, let's see, I can go back. Yeah, I can close that, and I can go back to NeoVim now. And I should be able to say space. Oh, I want to set a breakpoint. So let's set a breakpoint here. Not DC. DT. That's a breakpoint there. Then I can space DT. And so these are coming from NVim DApp. And so what I can say is I can say I want the AltGen core. And that should then say arguments I want to pass. So I want to pass 3 arguments. I want to pass Gemini, key, and then the path to the file. And I have a little utility to help me with that. So let's go OneDrive, desktop. I have a little utility function called copy path. That's going to be camera. And so all that does is it just puts the full path into my clipboard. Which is kind of nice. If you're working on the terminal a lot, it's really handy. Paste that there. And then what I should be able to do is I should be able to pass that in, and I should be able to hit this breakpoint. Let's see. So why? Let's set a breakpoint here. Okay, again, let's try again. Oh, let's write this all out. So, Gemini, key, and the path. Huh. Am I not even getting in to the... Why is this not working? Well, I'm definitely getting... I should be calling this function. Let's see, Gemini. E. Yeah, it's not hitting... You know what? I bet I need to build it. .NET build. Because that's the one thing that VS Code does that NeoVim doesn't do. At least it doesn't do it when using the launch settings.json. Is it doesn't run my tasks before I so it basically doesn't rebuild my solution before I debug. Okay, so now let's try. So Gemini, Alt, no, key. Okay, that didn't work, so now I'm a little stumped. So leader, DT, DC. This always happens, doesn't it? You get sidetracked by the silliest things. It doesn't even look like it's... Alright, let's try opening this, I guess, in VS Code again. Let's see if we can debug it in here. Because if we can't debug it in here, we know something weird is going on. Oh wow, Playwright got an update. Can locate stuff right in VS Code. That's cool. Let's see, terminal, debug, problems. We want to debug. So let's go to the program. Set a breakpoint in here somewhere. Let's debug the console. It's going to ask us for the same thing. Gemini, key, path to the file. Oh, there it is. See, it's airing out. Missing required argument. What? That's what I'm... Let's see. If I run... Okay. So that worked. Okay, let's go back to VS Code. Why... Oh. Do I need to pass this like this? Does this need to be a string? Let's see. Let's see if that makes a difference. Console. Yeah, console. Yep, that's what I want to pass. There we go. Okay, step into. Step over, step over, step over, step over. We got a 400. Just say status code 400. Yeah, so it is hitting there. Okay. So now let's try to go back to NeoVim and debug it. Let's see. This is going to be Gemini key. Did we hit a breakpoint? I don't think we did. I think we broke it. Gemini key. Quit. Let's see, NVim. Wonder why I'm having so much trouble debugging this. Oh, whoops. DT. Console. Gemini key. Path to the file. Can't parse. Type must be array, but it's string. Oh, interesting. Okay, so that worked for VS Code to fix VS Code's problem, but it needs this to be, whoops, it needs this to be a string, or an array, sorry, an array. But I need it to treat the input as an argument. Let's see. VS Code launch.json pass args as string. Let's see. When it specs args to be an array of strings that are passed the process where each item in the array is one argument. This is extremely user unfriendly when dealing with long command lines. For example, here's my use case. Okay. Fastest way I can see would be to do a find and replace. really don't want to do this. I'd prefer to do this, but it doesn't seem like NeoVim's gonna allow me to do that. Probably could submit a pull request to, let's see, NVim DApp, launch.json, launch args. Let's see. Launch. Launch.json. There should be. Config. See if I can find the function where it loads launch.json. Lua plugin VS Code. If input.type is prompt string, then return a function that does this. Yeah, but it's getting tripped up. Load JSON. Where's that file from? Yeah, so basically the problem is if I specify it this way, when I debug things in VS Code, it interprets this all as one. It basically interprets that string as the provider, and then it says I'm missing the key. Let's see. And then in NVim, NeoVim, it seems to be okay with what I've done there, but I seem to never hit my breakpoint. Gemini key. Yeah, I seem to just never... Gemini key. DAP. Let's see. DAP. Show log. I feel like I've had this issue before. But I can't remember how I resolved it. Hey Nightmare Brawler, sorry I missed your comment, man. Sorry, I was deep in the weeds here for a second. Lost in my own thoughts. I feel like I've had this happen to myself before and I can't remember what I did to fix it. Let's try debugging the API and see what that does. Let's put a breakpoint there. Okay, so our API is listening. Let's try to hit it. Yeah, it hit it. Yeah, see, it hit that breakpoint. Okay, so that's working. Let's continue. Okay, so that's working. So that's good. So why isn't my console... Why doesn't it like my console? Let's see. Don't use the internal console, use the integrated. Integrate. I think that's what it's called. Right? I'm pretty sure that's what this is called. Yeah, integrated. Okay, so let's go here. Set this again. We'll get our API running again. So it's listening. Okay, so now we're gonna hit DC console Gemini key thumbnail. Still didn't work. Doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm stuck in this loop of trying to do the same thing over and over again. App, show log. Breakpoint is pending. Breakpoint is pending. Will be resolved when debugging starts. This should work. Okay, let's just try something manual here for a second. So I'm going to remove this and we're just going to pass these in manual. So Gemini key and then that. So we're going to, yeah, we're just going to do that. And then we're going to come back here. DT. Let's give it a quick build real quick. Whoops.net build source. Okay. Actually, Night Brawler, you weren't here earlier, but we actually went over my setup was here. I'm gonna make a video of it and post it. Night Brawler was the one that was asking me in the comments of one of my shorts about that. Okay, so DC. Error parsing launch.json. Oh, I bet it's getting tripped up by these. Okay. Yeah, there we go. So it's something it's not liking about the it's not liking something about the way I'm passing the args. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. Also need to figure out why this is returning a bad request. Let's see. Let's say R bar contents. What's that? Then at some point equals JSON serialize, yeah. We'll just do that for now. Okay, .NET build. This is why we need really need to write some tests. We need to stop doing this and actually sit down and write tests for this and not keep going in this dumb loop that I'm stuck in. Okay, what's the content say? One or more validation errors occurred. Oh, that's where we need to use this guy. Content. Let's see. What does this say? The provider field is invalid. Okay, well, I thought I was passing a valid provider. Settings.provider. Let's see, provider is coming from Gemini. Right? Let's see, what am I passing? Let me look at my Postman request. provider, Gemini. You know what? I wonder if these do need to be. I wonder if these are case sensitive. This was. And this was file. Are these case sensitive? These may be case sensitive. Oh, and let's also continue. Right. All. See. Now what does my content say? Basically it says the same thing. So is my provider not what I think it is? What is my provider? Gemini. Okay. Yeah, it still says provider field is invalid. And I built this API and I don't even know how to make a request to it. That's when you know you're winning. Okay, the provider field is invalid. So it's null or white space is false. And LLM provider is valid. Okay, so providers, LLM provider. Oh, it's a literal match. I think we want to make this case insensitive. Yeah? Yeah, this should be case insensitive. So let's make this, well, I guess we can leave that. That constant's fine, but when we're doing the is valid check, we actually need to say provider dot to lower invariant variant is, can we do is? Yeah, so we'll make this lowercase, and then we'll just lowercase everything when it comes in. Now I wonder... Yeah, that shouldn't break anything. Okay, so now if we write everything out, we rebuild. Now what I'm hoping is we're going to hit that endpoint. Oh, whoops. I can't build it because it's running. There we go. Okay. Now, when I say now my hope is we're going to hit that and it should say yeah, so see how it took longer to hit that? So it actually did try to make a request to the Gemini. And I bet the errors should be something like yeah. It should be something like failed to generate, yeah, so it's a 500 now. Failed to generate alt text. And the reason why it failed is because we gave it a bad key, which we're eventually gonna take those bad responses to the Gemini API and we'll actually present those to the caller, but we just haven't made that change in our API yet. Ugh, this was not a very productive session here working on this. We really didn't make any progress on the console app. We've just spent the whole time fucking around with debugging shit. Yeah, so I need to figure out how I can pass arguments like this through NVim-DApp using a prompt string. What are the other types I can use here? Is there other types? Prompt string. So this is specifically using for prompt string. So this is where I can pick options. So what happens if I what if I change this to be argument 1 and I add another one here that's argument 2. I mean, this still isn't a great solution because I don't want to have to, every time I want to add an argument. There's some guy that I follow that, or I not really follow him, but he does a lot of C# development in NeoVim, and he actually told me in a Blue Sky thread that he just completely dropped debugging stuff using NeoVim because it was too much of a pain in the butt. And I can kind of see what he was getting at, but I'm determined to make this a thing. So now if I do DC and I say Alt-Gen Core, okay, so this is the first one, right? So this would be Gemini, and this is key, and that shouldn't work. So it will actually, okay, so that would work, right? So I can say first argument, and I could say second argument, and I could say ID, argument 3. I think this would get me there, but that's annoying, right? I mean, that's just, this is not a good use of my time, but this is one of those situations where I'm sort of nerd sniping myself. So this would be Gemini. This is key. Oh, did I not write that out? So this would be Gemini, key. Why isn't it? Oh, I didn't add the third. I didn't add the third down here. So this would be Gemini, key, and then, oh, whoops. No, don't do that. Oh, God. Okay, so this is going to be Yeah, so that works. Yeah. But the problem is I don't want to have to... I want to be able to just specify, like... I just want to be able to give all the arguments like I'm on the command line. And so what VS Code is saying is that you should be able to do that by saying... by saying this, right, is what they're saying. Should be able to do this. Which does seem to work in VS Code, but it doesn't work in MVim DApp. Yeah, so if I go back to program now, and I use this configuration, it says error parsing launch.json, expected value but found t array end at character 191. Okay, that's a little bit different. Oops. There we go. Did I not? What did I do wrong? So if I try to pass Gemini key and the path, then it says this: can't parse JSON exception, type error, type must be array but is string. So dap show logs. Oh, dap show log. Okay. So that is some issue with MVim DApp. So create input, create inputs. This is I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be going through this. So apply inputs, lift. Error. Okay, so this is where it errors. Pcall m decode JSON string. What is type to file types? Type to file types? What is that? Just an object? So where in here I guess where in here Does NVIM DApp expect like it looks like it's just passing the string straight to this function. But this JSON decode function I think is a Vim built-in, so why would it freak out that right? What? Hold on, let's. I need to put this on pause because I have other stuff I probably need to go and do. But I mean, I have a workaround, but this seems like something NVIM DApp should support. And if it doesn't, then I'm gonna open a PR or I'm gonna fork it and open a pull request with a fix. Oh yeah, okay, so if I type BT DC Gemini key, yeah, error on launch, can't parse. Type must be array, but is string. So where's this error coming from? Error on launch. I wonder if it's not in Vim DApp. I wonder if it's net core. I wonder if it's this. Let's see. Net core debug. Yeah, so I'm guessing this is actually not in Vim DApp. This must be the debugger itself. Error on launch, can't parse. Let's see if we can find an issue. Error on launch. I wish there was like a grep, like not search by file name, but like an actual grep for GitHub. debugger. Well, this is all in C++. I've never written any C++ before. Let's see. Netcore debug prompt string. Let's just take my error. Ah, dang it. I don't think I copied that. Yeah, didn't copy it. Netcore debug vs launch JSON input string. Yeah, that kind of sucks, man. So I kind of have to build this specific to this I kind of have to build the input specific to this console app. I wonder if I turn this into an array. Like that. And could I hack around this a little bit? So could I say excuse me. Could I say something like this? Could I say space DC AltGen core? And could I do something like this? Could I say Gemini key on the path? No, that didn't work. Let's see. What about Gemini? Well, get that. Don't debug it. What about... Can I leave these out? I don't think that will parse, will it? Okay, so what if I... No, this is always going to end up weird. It's never going to parse it properly. Nvim launch.json args Oh, here's an issue. Oh, so this is an NVim DApp thing, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Okay. So... Let's see, so what's this guy doing here? Copy the config and split the args if it is a string. Interesting. Should we try this? Let's try this real quick. And it looks like they added this function as a utility. I've added a couple of changes to add docs. Got rid of failing scenario. Okay, so DApp utils split stir. So use it like this. Okay, so maybe this is gonna fix the issue for us. Okay, so let's right quit all. Do we? Yeah, we can right quit all. Okay, edit the NVim config. This is gonna be an NVim DApp. Or debugging, actually. So we really want this to apply to any of our default. I think we want this to apply to anything, right? So we want something that registers on every on config. So how do we do that? Let's see, continue. That's not where we want to put it. I think we want to put it up here somewhere. So dapp dot defaults dot, well, hold on, let's paste in what we copied. So this is a function. Hold on, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Thank goodness you're here. I've been muted the last probably 20 minutes. Now my camera's. I went. I stepped away to go give my wife a kiss goodnight, so I muted myself, and then I forgot to unmute myself when I came back. So what I was saying, Justin, is you're not alone. Those feelings are completely normal. I am curious, where are you kind of on your, I guess, coding, programming journey? Are you just starting? Are you just learning? Have you been doing it a while? Do you do it as a job, or is it more of a hobby? That might help me give you better advice, you know? I'm very appreciative you're here, because honestly, if no one was watching, I probably would have remained on mute for the remainder of the stream. I streamed one Saturday night. There's a video on my YouTube channel from 2 or 3 weeks ago. I streamed for like 2 hours, completely muted. You can tell I do this a lot, you know. It's nice though having somebody be like, "Hey, idiot, unmute yourself." So you're a senior in college, studying CS. Okay. TSUF for like 5 years. Okay, so yeah, so you're deep in it, right? And I'm guessing you're planning to have a career in it as well. Planning to probably get a job, either some like DevOpsy thing, or software engineer, software developer type of situation. So let's see. I think the laugh my ass. Yeah, right. Yeah, at work, we keep track of like our talking on mute counter. We have to reset it every time we do it. You'd think we would all be better at it by now, right? Now, because of the pandemic and working from home and all that stuff, you figured we'd all be really good at it. Oh shoot, you already got a job, dude. That's awesome. Congratulations. Booz Allen too, right? Booz Allen makes me think of Edward Snowden, is what Booz Allen makes me think of. That's probably some great word association for their brand, huh? Okay, so to get to the advice, I'm not all knowing, first of all, so take what I say with a grain of salt. So I think when it comes to doing this stuff for work, you kind of have to recognize that some days it's going to be a job, and that's what the project you have, or the thing you've been given, is what you're being paid to do, and you have to dig deep and find the discipline and gut it out, because that's what your job is. I think in terms of overwhelm, I think you should step back and remember that you're likely going to do this for the next 30 or 40 years of your life. And there's only so much time in the day, and you can only learn and improve so much so fast. So give yourself lots of patience, and don't be consumed with trying to boil the ocean. You know? Yeah, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So I think from the overwhelmed perspective, it's to step back, recognize how much you obviously have already accomplished and learned, and despite there being so much more still to do and learn, just know that you have a really long time horizon, and be patient with yourself. As far as burnout goes, my advice on the burnout front is to have multiple projects, right? And this is probably more specific to like your own projects, not probably work related. You're probably not going to have a lot of say, right, in what projects you work on. Maybe you'll have some, but I think the burnout is more from a personal project perspective, is making sure you have things that excite you, and making sure that you have a couple of them. Because some days you're not going to wake up and feel like working on this project that you've worked the last 5 days on. No matter how maybe exciting it was on day one when you started working on it, on day 5, you want to change the pace. So I think having a couple different things that you can swap in and out to keep you interested and keep you excited. That's what's worked for me. Like, I have 3 or 4 things of varying levels of difficulty. Some things are yeah, you 100%. I think yeah, the thing about your job being a job is it will, like, as much as you probably enjoy doing this, I think that's very common. Like, most people who enjoy coding and programming as a hobby, they're going to enjoy it as a job to some extent, but there are just going to be days when it's a grind and you just got to gut it out. But there will also be days at your job where things are great. I mean, I have those in my day job. There are things, as right now I'm not employed as a developer or software engineer. I'm employed as a quality engineer. So there are days when I have to do the monotonous manual testing stuff. But there are days then when I get to spend my whole day in code, doing automation related things. So you just take the good with the bad, But yeah, I think it helps a lot if you can just think that, hey, I've got a lot of years ahead of me. I got a lot of work in front of me, and so I don't have to be in a rush to figure it all out or have the ideal situation. I think it sounds like you're far ahead of the curve compared to most, anyways. I'm curious, do you know what kind of stuff you're going to be working on as a data scientist for them? I mean, maybe you can't share, but just kind of curious. Or maybe even just kind of a little bit about what a day in the life of a data scientist is like. I'm guessing I could find some YouTube videos, but I'd love to hear it from somebody who's kind of prepping to go into the work. Oh, so everyone does the quality thing a little bit differently from what I have heard. So just from talking to people at conferences and meetups, there's some people that have quality embedded as part of the development team. So the developers, the engineers, they not only write the code, but they also write tests. And then some people have it like my company has it, where it's 2 separate functions. And so it seems like everybody does it a little different. So I'll speak to just kind of how we do it. So we have separate functions. Our developers just write code. They're not responsible for writing any type of tests whatsoever, whether they be unit, integration, end-to-end. And so all the testing falls to the quality team. For the most part, historically, our company has always done manual testing, right? So this is a web app. You can. It also helps to understand the context. So it's a web application. So it's just a bunch of testers that manually go in and click the buttons and enter the fields and do that type of thing. But since I've gotten hired on the quality team, I've tried to push for more automation. So right now we're starting with kind of an end-to-end regression library, but hopefully over time that automated testing approach can get pushed further down the stack and into the layers. That's kind of been my experience. Let's see. I talked to my manager. Got more posts. Wow, post quantum cryptography. Wow, dude, I'm sorry, but you're on a whole. This is more in research. That's wild, man. You're in a whole nother layer of complexity. I can barely pronounce post-quantum cryptography. But that's very cool. So I guess that's that whole idea of if quantum computers ever become a mainstream thing, or even, I guess, even just beyond mainstream, let's just say quantum computers become a common thing that like nation states have at their capability, then all of our current cryptography is basically broke, right? It's basically the quantum computers can basically solve all those cryptographic approaches so fast. Like, not that the quantum computers make the cryptography bad, they can just solve the problem much, much faster than traditional computers, right? So then the cryptography isn't as effective. Um, that's awesome. I've always wanted to play around with Automate. Yeah. So actually, all my automated testing stuff is actually. And sorry if there's a little bit of delay between our conversation. I feel like for some reason, streaming through OBS and then to restream adds a little bit of a delay. What was I gonna say? Oh, so we use if you go to my GitHub, if you search for OnSpring end-to-end tests, this is the library that I work on and maintain for work, and it's built using Playwright. So might need to yeah, I would have to brush up on my quantum stuff. Oh, okay. Yeah. There's a little bit of a delay. I need to get a little bit better about knowing that there's a little bit of a delay, and kind of having a conversation and coming up with a few 5 seconds of filler probably to make the conversation a little bit more synchronous. But yeah, I would definitely have to brush up on my quantum stuff as well. The only stuff that dealt with quantum in my college, I went to school for biochemistry, and the only time we really ever talked about the quantum realm, was in physical chemistry. We talked a little bit about quantum, but I took physics 1 and physics 2, and they were calculus based, but we really didn't deal a lot with. We did Newtonian physics in physics 1, and then physics 2 was a lot of electromagnetism and things like that. So yeah, I would have to do a lot of deep reading. But what I was going to say about the automation stuff. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate you following me on GitHub. But what I was going to say is this is basically the big automation project I work on, and we use Playwright. So, and that would be if you're doing anything with web apps. That's honestly the library that I would go with if you're doing any type of web development and you want to write end-to-end tests. There's other tools out there. There's things like Cypress and Selenium. They're older tools, and they have some rough edges. And so, if you're starting net new, I would definitely recommend Playwright for end-to-end automation. They have a Node.js library. They have a Python. I'm guessing you're pretty deep into the Python world, right? Because of the data science stuff. So they have a Python library, which is pretty cool. But that's what I would recommend. And then obviously you mentioned, GitHub workflows. That's what we use, or I should say that's what I've used, because I'm literally the only quality person who's working on this. So I use GitHub workflows to run the tests. But yeah, I'm curious. I am kind of curious what that. I'll be very curious, Justin, to see how that evolves for you. Do they know what functions to test, or I'm assuming you write specific tests using? Yeah, so you basically use their API and you write the tests. You can do code generation, right? So you can kind of you can basically record yourself clicking around and navigating on a screen and generate your test that way. in kind of a no code fashion if you want. But for the most part, like it's kind of hard to describe. But for the most part, you're going to write the test. So let me go into one here. Like this is just creating an app, for example, which is something you can do in our piece of software. You basically script this test out, right? So you create a fake app name, and then obviously you can build whatever type of abstractions you want to make it more ergonomic to work with. But yeah, you just use the API they provide it and use your engineering skills to abstract the things. And oh no, you're not overthinking it. Not overthinking it at all, because there's 100 different ways people approach these things. But the way I've kind of approached it is just very I think it's Martin Fowler. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's kind of a thought leader in the software development space, but he came up with a pattern called page object models. Yeah, page object. But it's a way to kind of try to help abstract some of that code, or encapsulate some of the code that you write for these end-to-end tests, so that you sort of keep logic separated in proper places. And so if you look at that repo that I pointed you at, you can kind of see like we've tried to separate some of the common actions into these separate objects that know how to work how to interact with that page, which is fun. I mean, it's a good time. I mean, that's what I do for work now. But I also obviously in my free time like to build stuff too, which is good. It's been good. Like I said, I didn't come up through a CS background, so this is all been self-taught, self-learned. The only real formal education I had was I took Programming 1 and Programming 2 my senior year of college, and I loved them. I loved the classes. And if I had had that experience as like a freshman, I probably would have changed my major. But since I had that experience as a senior, I was like, it's too late. I gotta finish this thing. I gotta finish this degree I got. And the degree served me well. Before I worked in tech. I worked as a food scientist for 6 years, 7 years almost. And that was fun. It was a lot of fun. What am I working on my free time right now? Okay, so I have like 3 things going on. Actually, hold on one sec. I have a visual aid I can show you. One sec. Yeah, like the formal education thing, I think is hit or miss, right? I think if you're a driven individual, right, you can kind of make up for a lot of that, but I know there definitely is, like in big tech, right? There's definitely a thing between self-taught and formally educated. Um, Food scientist. What does that entail? So basically, it's the title sounds really fancy, but basically my job was customer comes to you and they say, I want this type of product with these type of characteristics, this type of flavor. The products I worked on were all frozen food products. And so your job is to obviously generate a prototype of what they're wanting. And you have to do it in such a way that it mimics what like a large scale manufacturing plant can produce. And then your job is to actually scale that up in the plant, right? So you basically make this prototype concept, and then you need to also translate that to a production line, and that way your customer gets exactly what they're wanting, what they're hoping. And so the science part of that is the science is more of an applied science, right? You're trying to use your knowledge of the sciences and how foodstuffs work to deliver on the flavors, on the textures, and then also combining that with the knowledge you gain. You kind of learn it more than anything from being on the job about the manufacturing process. So yeah, it was very cool. It was very cool. It was like kind of a, problem solving. It was very much in that engineer vein. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. 100% what you just said. And so I primarily worked on the plant that I worked at. Was primarily focused on breaded, or I guess we call them coated appetizers. So think like your cheese sticks and your onion rings of the world type of things. And then we also made pot stickers. So if you've ever been to like Costco and bought Ling Ling pot stickers, or if you've been to Walmart and bought Taipei pot stickers, right? Maybe Trader Joe's, you've seen pot stickers in there, even pot stickers at restaurants. Some pot stickers at restaurants are factory made. They're not made back of house. But yeah, it was a good career. It was very interesting. Let's see. You said some of the foundational stuff I doubt you'd ever learn outside the classroom, which can be very... Yeah, like I actually, the last 2 years I've done Advent of Code, and that has kind of driven me to do some deeper study on like data structures and algorithms, because you start to pick up on like, hey, these puzzles all have a pattern, and if you know this algorithm and you understand these data structures, you can solve a lot of these problems a lot faster. Not sure on the brand, but love. Yeah, pot stickers are great, man. That was my favorite new products to develop, was pot sticker products. What did you asked something a little bit while back? Oh, what am I working on my free time? So like I said to you earlier about the whole burnout situation, I think it helps to have like a few different projects of varying level of difficulties that you can kind of switch between. So the one I have been working on that I have up on my screen is basically, I have a little diagram. Let's see. I basically am building this API. So I basically built an API that talks to some LLMs, and I can post an image to it, and I can pick what LLM I want to use, and the LLM will generate alt text for me. So like when you post something on Blue Sky or LinkedIn, right, and you have to, instead of having to type your alt text, I'm just gonna give this to my app, and my app will come up with some really nice, pretty alt text to describe the image, and I can copy and paste it. So it's like a tool to solve my own problem. It's not really technically difficult or anything like that. It's all stuff I know. It's within my wheelhouse, but it's been fun to just kind of work on it, especially since I recently picked up NeoVim as an editor. So it's been a good project to kind of play and experiment and learn how to navigate and do things with NeoVim instead of VS Code. So that was one project. A second project I've been working on, I actually don't have it. It's actually on my other computer. I don't have it pushed anywhere yet. Is a background removal tool using machine learning. I shouldn't say using machine learning. I should say using a machine learning model is what I should say. And so that came out of... That project is a little bit more difficult and required some research because I didn't know how to get a machine learning model and how to use it in the context of an application. So that took some So this visual is more of just one project. So basically I'm building an API, and then I'm also going to build a console app and a web app to talk to the API, right? So that way, the console app I can use in the terminal, and the web app I can use if I'm on my phone, basically. So then the other project that I don't have any way of showing it to you, because on my other computer and I haven't pushed it up to GitHub, came from the fact that I use Canva for a lot of like my thumbnails and just graphics and stuff. And one of the features they have that's a paid feature is a background removal tool. But it's paid, and it's like the only paid feature of Canva that I'd actually pay to use. And so I was like, you know what? I don't really want to pay for that. Can I come up with a solution myself? And so I kind of went down this rabbit hole of like, okay, so how do people do background removals and yada, yada, yada. And so I have a tool now that I was actually polishing it up tonight so I can, because I wrote a blog post about it and was going to push it up to GitHub. That basically it loads a machine learning model into memory. It runs inference. And then I use the output of that inference to mask out the background. So that's the second project I've been working on my free time. And then the third project, which is kind of the most difficult, it's the most furthest out of my like wheelhouse, is I'm gonna follow this book. Let's see if I can see it. It's called, I think that's in focus. It's called Build a Large Language Model, and it's a Manning publication book, because we're doing a ton of generative AI stuff at work, and so I've done a lot of prototyping with just using the foundational models. But I was like, I need to go a layer deeper. Like I don't want to just understand how to talk to the foundation models or how to prompt the foundation models or how to wire the foundation models up into my application. I want to go kind of a layer deeper and understand these models kind of at a deeper layer. So I was like, what better way to do that than to try to build my own? And so that's what this book essentially promises, that you'll walk through building a small little transformer yourself. And so so I'm going to get real comfortable with my Python again, because I've been avoiding writing much Python. But yeah, so that's kind of those are kind of my three. Yeah, learning for it. Yeah, exactly. So my hope is that having some knowledge, like a layer deeper than I really need, right, will come in handy at some point. But yeah, it's been a while since I've written a lot of Python, and I think the majority of this book is written in Python. So I'll probably go through it and use the code examples and write everything in Python. And then I'm sure at some point I'll try to figure out, can I redo this in TypeScript or can I redo this in C#? Because I just it's not that I don't like Python, it just hasn't ever grabbed me. Whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to kick the camera. It just hasn't ever grabbed me as a language of choice. But I'm sure as a data science, that's your lingua franca, right? So yeah, that's what I've been working on. Tonight I was supposed to work on this a little bit more, and then I got sidetracked with the yeah, I'm sure your time's pretty precious, man, honestly, trying to figure out what to spend time on, right? Your own projects versus projects for school versus projects that prepare you for work. Yeah, so I'm sure it's a struggle, no doubt. No doubt. What was I gonna say? I was gonna say something about Neovim. You said you love Neovim. Yeah, I started picking up. So I switched to Neovim right at the beginning of the year. I found this really good series by this YouTuber named Typecraft. Not sure if you're familiar. But I found this really good playlist from Typecraft. Yeah, it made me burn out just thinking I'm not doing it. Yeah, I totally right. I feel constrained. I feel very constrained. I get that feeling. It's not a fun feeling. School does that to you though. I remember that. I'm 31 now, so college was a little bit ago for me, but I remember those 4 years just wanting to get out, right? Like I wanted my life back. It was just so consuming. And I remember just thinking, man, these 4 years, I mean, I thought high school was slow and college felt just even, oh, so you love type. Yeah. So he was the one that convinced me to finally give NeoVim a shot. So that's what convinced me to do it. And then tonight I got stuck on a little bit of a NeoVim rabbit hole. But I got it figured out. So that's good. And Prime, Fireship, yeah, I like Prime. I love watching Prime stream. Oh, so you suck at programming. He's really, really good. Yeah, he's really, really fun. He seems just like a very genuine, cool, relaxed guy. You know, very confident. Not confident, very secure, right? Very secure in who he is and his abilities, and has a willingness to share and teach others, which I really love. Prime is just a riot. I mean, the Primeagen is just, he's hilarious. I watched his stream the other day where I think the title of it was, what was it? The title was something like, I'm not turning off the stream till I solve LeetCode in assembly, or something like that. That was really good. It was very impressive too, because that he literally did that, and it probably would have taken me a month to pick up assembly. And he did it in an afternoon. That's one of those moments for me that's like, yeah, I like to program and I like to code, but maybe I'm probably not ever going to be like the Michael Jordan of programming. Maybe one day. Who knows? Just keep putting in time on the keyboard. You watched that whole... Yeah, I did too. Yeah, I was invested. It was like... I cooked it. I'll bet he had to... I'll bet his brain and his body paid for that one, huh? Yeah. Super, 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 super fun. He's a good guy. Fireship's good. His stuff is just so punchy, you know? So punchy and catchy. Yeah, cool hobby. Yeah, I mean, I tell you what, it sure will take you down a rabbit hole from what I've seen. I've not done a ton of low level stuff like that, honestly. God, there's just so much to learn, you know? Just so much to learn, and just only so much time to spend on any one. I think that's where, like, yeah, driver dev. I think, yeah, I think that's where that whole idea of like, have you heard that concept of like a T-shaped developer? Right? That's kind of where my head is at the moment, where I'm like, yeah, that's where I'm trying to stay. I'm trying to stay in that space where it's like, okay, it's okay if I don't know a lot about everything. Get really comfortable with a few technologies, and then, you know, make some time to explore when I have it. But yeah, it's just, yeah, there's just a lot. Well, Justin, it's been really good talking with you. I probably need to wrap up, honestly, and get to bed. I got work in the morning. The kids will be up in 4 or 5 hours. But I really appreciate you stopping in and chatting with me this evening. It was nice to have someone in the chat that was kind of in the same world as I am. Same headspace. So I hope you come back though. I hope you come to, if you see me live, you know, stop in and say hi. I'd love to. I definitely would love to hear how your job situation and stuff changes. You know, how that experience goes for you. Sounds very exciting. Time to clean up the desktop. Close all the windows. Close all the windows. Yeah, so I'm gonna head out. You have a good night, Justin. Hopefully I'll see you again in another stream, okay? And if not, good luck with everything. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, hopefully in future streams I'll actually do some actual coding. Yeah, tonight there was very little of it, but yeah, stop back in. I appreciate you subbing, man. I appreciate that a lot. All right, I'll talk to you later, Justin. See you, man. And if there's anybody else lurking in the chat.